Alright, time to tackle the chapter that deals with the Lord of the Vampires.
Love can be a powerful weapon, it seems, even to
Strange,
those who are dead.
isn't it?
Laura has spared him. Though she has the power to take his life, she has given it back, and all for love. Perhaps she remembers her true mother's
Like I
arms
said, it's
around
not the
her,
last we see of her,
comforting
so
before
we'll
she
see what
became
happens.
his creature. Perhaps she remembers the feelings of love, thought long lost to her heart all those years ago.
What a weird game of chess we've played.
A child's love is without bitterness or boundaries.
That reminds me of that Harry Potter wizard
I
chess
wonder
from
what will become
the book
of her,
and the movie.
this lost soul,
Yeah.
when we kill her present mother and send her to the pits of hell where she belongs.
Yes.
She'll be fine.
So yeah, this next set of levels is in order to get to the higher quarters of the castle in order to defeat the Lords of Shadow of the Vampires. Oh. Sorry? Well, we're still... Okay, that's the thing, again, the geography makes a little sense. We're supposed to be like in Central Eastern Europe, kind of like.
Guys,
but,
it's so cold that it's freezing the screen.
Yeah, that's immersion, Drova, don't you see? Also, for the record, audience, since again we already dated the part of the playthrough by talking about E3, by the time recording this, yes, I know Madman Muscle has done a video about, technically speaking, Lords of Shadow 2, but he talks about the series in general. I seen it, I actually enjoyed it for the most part. There are some things they appreciate it, others that I slightly disagree upon, but I cannot talk about it in its entirety because it deals with a couple of spoilers that happens in this very game.
Wait. I can explain
actually, scroll, Jova, while you're at it.
I've seen a young child crying in the darkness. My first thought was to comfort her, but something stayed my hand. There was an evil surrounding her, something unholy. I made a quick escape up the ramparts of the castle, and am now exhausted. I have been unable to scavenge any gems here, for many of my brothers did not get this far. I fear that the task set before us is impossible and the world is lost, but I must not give up. Kudos, guys.
Haven't these faceless like knights learned by now not to say stuff like that at the end?
Again. Kudos to this guy for...
things are never learned.
Kudos to this guy for making it this far, because this implies he got through the stronghold and pretty much near the keep of the Lord of Shadow, and got past Laura, too.
Well, there is a bit of a self-awareness in talking about how you should not expect that many gems from here now, because, you know, it's pretty much clear that many brothers are not reaching these higher locations. Some will still do, mind you, but not as in large quantities. But anyway, you were saying, Jova?
Yeah, to explain the stance with Lords of Shadows in a non-spoilerly fashion, let's just say Lord of Shadows takes a few drastic measures in some of the changes from the other two Lord of Shadow games in the trilogy.
Well,
and it did lead to some split reactions.
Well, we already mentioned this, but again, to talk more will be spoilery. I can tell you instead about this. Apparently, Dave Cox is a person that worked at Konami on Castlevania since the days of Symphony of the Night, so he's not like a person that knew anything. I'm surprised no one bothered to update his IMDb page as a result. That's weird. Oh, there you go, another light puzzle.
So Dave Cox of Mercury Steam...
The one, no, it was actually working at Konami. He did act as one of the writers of this first game and the sole writer of Lords of Shadow 2. I forgot if it was also the sole writer for Mirror of Fate, but probably. But ever since what happened with Konami in 2015, basically, he actually quit the company. If I recall correctly, he's now working at Mercury Steam. Though, if I recall correctly, he's not directly involved with the Metroid games. Which leads me to another good point, since we did mention in one of the previous parts. I did actually some research in the meantime. Apparently, the entire reason why Nintendo is trusting Mercury Steam with these things, with Metroid, is because the team itself has been adamant in trying to teach Nintendo proofs of concept for Metroid games because they're just so eagerly to work on the franchise, and Nintendo finally accepted a couple of them. Originally, they were supposed to make a remake of a Fusion, exactly, but the proof of concept, while disputed, Nintendo thought to repropose it for Samus Returns. And then, when they actually, Mercury's team out of nowhere actually proposed their own concept for Metroid Dread, which was in limbo as we come to learn, Nintendo was immediately on board. Again, it's pretty interesting how not only it's a tale of, it gives a bit more of a happy ending for this company, because when we get to Lords of Shadow 2, we learn exactly what the cycle that Mercury's team faced through this particular trilogy went. But it's also interesting to see Nintendo trusting these kind of developers who are, well, technically speaking, from the other side of the world.
Yeah.
I mean, that's nothing new considering retro.
Well, okay, that's the thing
game.
that those are mostly American studios
Mercury's
or Canadian.
team was kind of
Nor-
like
North
a
American.
smaller company in regards
Not
to
just that,
stuff.
and it's mostly European. The closest we got to something similar to this is the collaboration with Ubisoft Milan for, Mario plus Rabbids. Anyway, I'll mention this. I used all my remaining magic energy trying to solve the puzzle, but cannot get past it. It told me that these clues would be enough to figure out a solution, but I'm unable to find it. There are 6 rooms in total, 3 of each color. There are 2 blue rooms on the left side of the door. The rules close to the door and those farthest away from me to match the color of the ones placed in front of them. At least one of the rooms which are the furthest away from the door is blue. Did you get that? Good.
Thank you very much for explaining the puzzle to the next unfortunate knight. Now die!
And even still, Dweebs, it's still it's not a complete explanation for the sake of giving you an actual challenge. But to be fair, the experience points that you gain are plentiful, as a result. So it's encouraged at the very least to give it a try.
Back
Yeah,
to
I'm
the
actually
talk
checking
about
again just to be sure.
Well,
But
Nintendo
yeah,
basically said, "Here's the keys to the kingdom."
pretty much.
What I do like about
And
this,
Hello.
And I get the idea Sakamoto was all too happy about jumping on board because he essentially was doing nothing for the time being.
No, he was doing other stuff. It wasn't Metroid.
which
Okay, yes,
is his
Jonah?
baby. But the thing I like most about this news is that again, it really does also feel like Nintendo are doing this more with other franchises that were more or less on ice and are growing to trust these smaller dev companies better to rise up and give us long-awaited sequels, which means eventually we'll probably get a proper Star Fox follow-up. Maybe Sakurai will get to team up with a Kid Icarus team or whatnot for this and that.
Alright, so-
Jeremy, you'll get your 65th remake of the original game.
There we
and you'll
go.
like it.
There's also the fact
That's-
that sorry, go on.
That said, though, the biggest thing is that I've said it before and I'll say it again. The more Nintendo seems to be reviving franchises, like hell, even Advance Wars is back, being brought back by Way Forward, and that remake is looking awesome. I really do think that we could be gearing up to finally a revival of the F-Zero franchise. Like, there are plenty of companies out there who could
I
make
know
a good
Nagashi
game.
from Sega wants to make a new one.
And honestly, I don't think it's
Doesn't
outside the
Sega
realm
make
of...
other those?
There was
DX.
even a tongue-in-cheek kind of reference by having the medley in Smash Ultimate being sung by the same singer who did the Daytona lyrics.
And it was
Yeah.
awesome. But yeah, honestly...
But
Oh, go on, Shiro.
It's been said before, but it bears repeating. Like, it's really nice that big developers are asking other companies to take the things they either don't really want to work with or don't have the time to work with.
Exactly.
but especially
Kind of the
because
thing that's keeping a lot of these franchises alive, really.
especially because back in December 2020, because it's another thing that I found out, the fate of Mercury's team seemed to be kind of on a thread. Because sure, they're actually still going on these days with their Space Lords self-published IP, but apparently part of their stock was purchased by Northern Europe film company, which I never heard about. And I'm like, why do companies that have nothing to do with video games keep purchasing stocks of video game developers?
Because because they realize how profitable video games are now.
But that's the thing, that most of the time when these purchases happen, nothing comes out of it. Like, at least if it was for a higher purpose, I can guess. But
TO, Mortal Kombat's owned by one of the major Hollywood studios.
That's because Warner Bros. Actually managed to have an established gaming division for both original IPs and licensed products. Remember, up until I think it was the end of the 2000s, they were still subcontracting other companies to handle things. A lot of people don't remember, but it's still labeled on some of the packages. But the original version of Batman Arkham Asylum was subcontracted to Eidos, which by extension was Square Enix. Like, in terms of some
Also,
part of publishing.
TO rich people not knowing what to do with their money. Are you surprised?
Well, you know, this discussion brings up why I hate the business practices of companies like Activision, Konami as of 2015, and of course EA. Like, again, why completely wear out a company when you could have a company that's got not much else better to do? Work on one of your franchises that you don't do as much with. It seemed like Activision were running with this. But then, well, stuff
Okay,
happened.
there's also the thing, Joe. Aside from the schizophrenic behavior of EA, because at the same time, they're managing to have a surprisingly, apparently at the very least, a healthy relationship with. God, I keep forgetting his name.
Joseph Ferris?
Yeah, Joseph Ferris and his team. But at the same time, they managed to have their usual shtick where they try to strangle studios and squeeze all the life out of them and
If
then
I
discard them like
understand
cheap toys.
correctly, Joseph Ferris is in an interesting predicament where, yeah, he's sort of partnered with them, like, you know, they fund some of his stuff, but it's not like they outright own his company. He's like part of that indie
No.
initiative.
I do understand that, Jova, but remember what he said also in interviews. He never spoke ill of a company. He always told how they were actually pretty chill and giving carte blanche for everything.
Tia, hold on. He never spoke ill of the company. Where the hell was everyone during his performance during the Game Awards of 2017? Because he tore into EA. Granted, he may or may not have been on drugs and drunk, but hey, all the more power to him for biting the hand that fed him. It had it coming, but still managing to come out on top.
But go on, Dej. I'll mention later.
Apparently, when it comes to the indie stuff, EA does treat those guys pretty well. It's just that their employees are,
I think it's
which reinforces the other thing that I was wanting to talk about. Again, it seems that for EA, the keyword is being in control more than anything. Because aside from this indie panorama, it's like they feel the need to be in control of a dev team that wants to work on one of their IPs.
Well,
yes, Lives.
Well, if I could bring up an example from last year that kind of contradicts that. Last year, EA, along with Petroglyph, remastered the first two Command & Conquer games. And Petroglyph aren't owned by EA, they're basically staffed of people who used to work on the Command & Conquer series back in the day. And that turned out fine, especially compared to another hyped remaster that came out.
Yeah, Warcraft 3. Anyway, now what is a Castlevania title without a clock tower level? Granted, this is not as dickish as the others in the series, so don't expect flying Medusa heads out of the wazoo, alas.
Or crazy
She will
werewolf
try every
ladies.
trick in the book to tempt him to her cause.
But it's still a decent, that is, you will see, is a decent platforming challenge, which is something that it's tied also, this development makes me remember something that I didn't mention, something that I can talk about, that Madman Muscle mentioned in his video. A sad reality, surprisingly, is that this trilogy alone is apparently the highest grossing set of Castlevania games in the entire franchise.
Yes.
I guess the attachment to Kojima with the first title and the higher production value, and I guess catering a bit to a slightly more casual audience helped. Especially because, again, Iga was put basically on the backside, which eventually led him to depart the company and do essentially Bloodstained. So I get the idea. This is also why Konami subcontracted another studio to handle their new take on
If I
this.
may, I think another thing to consider is the state the Castlevania franchise was in. That's not to say it was terrible or anything, but Whereas nowadays we have all these special history videos that helps put the whole series into a chronological order here and there. Castlevania was pretty weird with its releases here and there. Like, for instance, releases could happen and they could take place all over on the timeline of stuff here and there. It could be, oh, this takes place just a few months before the first Castlevania, or, hey, did you know that this takes place in between Lament of Innocence and Castlevania 3? And so on and so forth.
It's more understandable than something like, say, the Hyrule Historia.
Oh, definitely. Definitely.
Do you really think Nintendo cares about that?
Okay, let me pick another example then. I argue it's a more comprehensible timeline than, say, the Resident Evil one. And I mean, just, just the game verse, not the bullet.
Wait, hold on. You actually consider that more conceivable than the Resident Evil timeline?
Yes, Remember, Jova, aside from the fact that the remakes of 2 and 3 put in discussion back all the titles that happened in between, like Outbreak or Operation Raccoon City, there's all these gajillion titles that magically were happening at the same time of Resident Evil 2 and 3, and then they branch into something else entirely. What? And that's not even mentioning the CGI movies.
When it comes to the remakes, I thought people have agreed that those were alternate timelines because, unfortunately with Resident Evil Remake 2 and 3, some events change up a little too much to the point where they cannot fit with the overall timeline.
I feel like it's more like they're retconning them.
That's also a possibility. Anyway, let me mention quickly the gimmick. The gimmick of this particular level is actually interesting. You're supposed to essentially raise the central platform up and up in order by scouring through the exterior parts of the clock tower and finding the levers in order to actually raise up the platform itself. All the while having to perform this kind of platforming, which is surprisingly slow. It's clearly a contrast to the average clock tower level for a Castlevania title, but it still poses a decent challenge from the electric wires that run amok through all of the level, so that's pretty interesting as well.
In terms of Castlevania games we were kind of lucky not to get. I was looking up the franchise on Wikipedia and the list of games that were cancelled. We were supposed to get a Castlevania Symphony of the Night on GameCon.
Oof. There was also the cancelled Dreamcast game, out of which a prototype has been actually resurfaced, similar to the ones of Sonic the Hedgehog. That's pretty interesting as well.
But anyway, the main point I was trying to make is I do wonder if maybe people were getting a bit intimidated with buying a Castlevania game and trying to keep up with, okay, what's the canon?
Funny you mentioned that. So I was doing research about Symphony of the Night a few days ago. No, actually. And it turns out the reason why they changed the formula so bad is it was in response to them seeing Castlevania titles in bargain bins.
Are you referring to them essentially making it that the Belmonts couldn't wield the whip in that regards to changing the
I'm talking about Symphony of the Night. The reason why they changed the gameplay formula, because it's it was meant to be a spin-off.
Oh shit! I see him again.
It was meant to be a spin-off. Well, not by spin-off I meant how Wario Land is. So.
I get what you mean.
But it's okay, we need people to buy Castlevania games.
So what do you mean by changing the gameplay formula? Because Symphony of the Night doesn't feel.
It's
completely different from 4.
That's the thing, Joe, but it ditches most of the platforming challenges, aside from some specific elements, and focuses on a more action RPG kind of approach.
And we're inspired by Zelda. Because remember, it's what started the Igavania stuff. Compared to what people prefer with the classic stuff. I know some people like the classic.
Anyway, there you go, use your rematch against the Frankenstein beast, though in this case it cannot anymore regenerate, but it compensates by using magnetism, of course. Thankfully, as you can see, it's actually far easier than the first round, and hey, it's the only encounter that you get in this level, so there's a bonus. And now it's time for fishing for good by, smashing the fucking fetus, Jesus.
Beautiful. But, yeah, like I said, there were probably a lot of factors that went into Castlevania not doing as well back then. Holy cow, that was hardcore. But, okay, yeah, like I said, maybe some people were intimidated by getting something which could pretty much hop over from the timeline. I'd also, again, say that it was part of people's frustrations that we didn't get a 1999 game. Because seriously...
But also the fact that...
It's more like Castlevania just never was a huge seller.
It's not even that. It's also that. But there's also the fact that while actually applying decent changes in last titles, particularly on the Nintendo DS games, where they try to utilize the stylus for different combinations, like in Order of Ecclesia or Dawn of Sorrow, the core formula that was established with Symphony of the Night was technically still the same. So I also get the idea that the Iga and the others were running out of steam at least a bit. Because remember, again, the story in Castlevania is a nice bonus for the main series, but what matters the most is also the gameplay. And sure, again, it's basically the formula is mostly consistently the same, but it gives that sense of thrill of exploration, in order to go from place to place, getting the upgrades and all. Anyway, before dealing with the Lord of Shadows of the Vampires, we had to deal with their lieutenant.
Heart of evil. Darkness is all around, surrounding him from all sides. Here he will meet the brother of the one he destroyed in the village.
Oops.
His name is Olrox. The two brothers have been her greatest champions, yet I sense their reign of evil is ending here tonight.
Spoilers.
Olrox and his brother Brawner are traitors.
Sobek is kind
who
of
took
a
sides
quirky
with the
narrator.
Queen when she became one of the Dark Lords. He has wreaked terror on the lands ever since. But now he will meet one who is
Okay, we
greater,
get it.
more
Gabriel's
powerful
probably
than
gonna
he.
win.
One who will deliver a message without any mercy. Olrox,
Did you
meet
know
Gabriel
he is very
Belmont
sad, but he's
and
going
his
to win.
vampire killer.
Thank you, Sir Patrick Stewart. Again, we don't need too much, dramaticness.
Hey Tio,
Hey, guy,
Tio.
Did you know this guy's gonna win? How about I tell you again?
Hey Tio.
Yeah.
Imagine a Castlevania game narrated by Morgan Freeman.
You shall not pass through here.
Okay.
I'd buy it.
Not stand in my way.
Yeah, Gabriel is just so done with everyone's shit. Alright, Commander Olrox. Another demon spawn vampire. He and his younger sibling were both inhuman before the Dark Lord found them and turned them. In fact, they didn't belong to this earthly plane at all. Being lesser never demons, began in the deepest corners of hell. How they came into our world is still a mystery, but what is known is that Vampire Dark Lord found them and, mutated them. And apparently they were perfectly okay with that. So, Olrox is a bit tricky because, aside from the standard moveset, but it's also relatively similar to one of his brothers, just a bit more complex. Let's just say that this is a case where the arena is mostly stacked in his favor. Also, he loves to bite. Please don't.
Yeah, that's very rude.
You never bite on the first date.
How dare you tell him?
Also, he's a complete simp.
Unless you and your significant other are really into that, in which case.
But anyway, might as well continue. So I also get the idea why sales were not being boosted. I argued that was not okay. If I recall correctly, at the very least, because I don't remember seeing much. I don't think Konami was marketing a lot their games, their Castlevania titles. And then there was the weird shit that they did with Dawn of Sorrow, where they did that greatest hits version for Nintendo DS, which is regarded as one of the worst covers in the entire library of the console. It's just so. It just makes you scream why they did that. So I also get the idea why this sold like hotcakes in comparison.
Well,
was there something new?
It was definitely a fresh start, and okay, if there's one thing people were hungering at the bit with Castlevania, it was a good jumping on point, and wow.
It's not even that.
I mean, you can't ask for a much better jumping on point than this. And you know what? I'll give this credit. unlike certain other reboots that I could mention, this one feels like a good new continuity. Granted, the continuity would come into question with later games in the trilogy, which we'll go over when we get to them. But honestly, with what they had,
the what happened of Lords of Shadows 2 is the recommended video.
But hold on, here's the gimmick. All Roxas decide to litter the arena with corpses of werewolves in order to regain health. So first, let's distract him from his meal. And the next time he does that, we'll need to play a bit of a trickery against him as a result. But anyway, to keep going, there's also... Yes, Blibs?
I was going to say to Deji, Deji, the one I've got is a video from Deji called Reunion with My Brother. And also such other appropriate recommended videos for this one, such as amazing films why Dad had to call an ambulance. I raced across the ocean, and 1,032 brake horsepower Ford Transit is finally happening.
Anyway, I guess one other strong point of this is not just the fact that the gameplay is also satisfying as a whole. Again, the God of War /Devil May Cry hack-and-slash formula manages to be effective for a good reason. But not only this is also deep, rich in content when it comes to gameplay. You get upgrades all over the place. You'll find new enemy types. The bosses have gimmicks to them, and all. But it's also rich in terms of story and particularly lore. Sure, like I said, it makes the fans of the classic series turn a bit their head on, because again, it tries to pander a bit too much to Lord of the Rings fans, arguably, and I can see that. But it's still just the fact that, again, for a mid-recycled PS3 title, and also, the equivalent for Xbox 360. This is impressive in terms of how much they crammed into this both story and gameplay-wise. Especially for this kind of production value. Usually, for this kind of quality, you would expect not much in the first place. And there you go. That's the gimmick. As soon as he starts feeding, you need to distract him, then he will run away in panic, and then you need to destroy the corpse. Keep doing that until he runs out of corpses, meaning that he runs out of keys to heal. There we go. But yeah, basically, like I said, I will be able to tell a bit more when it comes to the what happened video when we get to mostly Lords of Shadow 2. Mirror of Fate is just, that, like, again, a kind of a transitional game on that front. So most of the juicy details happen mostly with the second game.
Was it bad or divisive due to executive memo, not rather than Mercury's Steam being bad?
Which game are you asking about, Dej?
Lords of Shadow 2.
It was mostly, okay, I can tell you this. Okay, no, I can tell you actually this. It was mostly executive meddling. I had some suspicions, but But Madman Muscle did confirm in his video. One of the major reasons why this first game managed to be effective in what they delivered is that Kojima vouched for the team in almost its entirety as soon as he started overseeing the project, meaning that Konami did not interfere that much. Not so much with Lords of Shadow 2, because Kojima was busy doing MGS5, meaning that he only gave his blessing for the sequel, which fine, I don't mind. But that left Mercury's team open to be hit by the executive meddling at Konami. Anyway, time to finish all rocks.
Tyr, you gotta love the mentality. Gee, I know this company made what is arguably one of the best-selling Castlevania games ever, but I think we need to still show them how it's done for the third game in the trilogy.
But anyway, there we go. Now, here's the interesting thing. The level doesn't end with a boss fight, but with a puzzle, actually. The boss fight does not end in level immediately, but you need to use the Lieutenant's Blood for kind of puzzle. There you go. There is some cryptic writing embossed in the stone piece. To open the path to the Vampire Lord, fill all the cups with the key that was poured. A key that is made from no metal nor wood, but from something that we prefer to call food.
Basically, you know one of
You're
those
so
games.
funny.
You know one of those
Move
games.
the blood. There you go. It's not actually pipe, but you need to move the blood through these checkpoints in order to reach the other side of the plate. Every time you start moving, the clock represented by the flames, kind of like that wheel of the Board of Fate cards in Yu-Gi-Oh, start disappearing, meaning that you don't have that much luxury of moves, but it's perfectly doable. Yes, Jova?
I was gonna say, think about it like one of those marble game puzzles where you have to tilt the puzzle around to move the marble into it. Only instead
True.
of a marble, it's blood.
And you still have to use the left analog stick anyway.
Gotta love, well, of course vampires love blood, but dang, was their mentality literally that, oh, it needs to be our lieutenant's blood, so that implies we killed them to get through.
Well, okay, it's more the fact just using blood in general, but again, this was the very convenient one that we managed to find. And this is also one particular puzzle where it doesn't penalize you that much for failing, so I really do recommend for you to not skip it and actually, do try it, especially because, again, the scroll just gives you like the super hint anyway, and the idea is to find an optimal path, but considering how strict the time limit is, there is not much room to fail or experiment. So there you go.
Puzzle solved, and 1,000 Picarats.
Yes.
Man, the Picarats given here are way more wealthy than the Picarats given in Leighton games.
Okay, at the very least,
These are ancient Picarats or something.
At the very least, here we have an icon. I still have no idea what a Picarat actually looks like.
Well, and we never will.
It's an imaginary currency.
Is it like a coin, a piece of paper, like
it's
a
cryptocurrency?
It's an imaginary currency.
Oh no, it's Dogecoin.
It's an imaginary currency
God.
Tale that
It all makes sense.
Yeah, cryptocurrency.
So what you're telling me is that Picarats were basically a cryptocurrency created by one Elon Musk. It all makes sense now.
Let's go with that.
Mask, I'm sure of it. He is so very strong now, and even she must fear her own death at his hands. I can smell her fear.
Time to face the Queen of the Vampires, the Lord of Shadows attached to them.
She cannot.
Just
she knows
try to keep.
I see what you did there at the end.
Yeah, I see what I did there. Try to keep an ear out, Pedro, because you might recognize our voice actress.
Years before this night has ended.
But yeah, that's basically it, the Bloody Tears reference, and then you're straight up good to go.
So yeah, for those who will recall, Carmilla is a recurring figure in the Castlevania series. One of Dracula's...
She's mostly like a mid-tier kind of servant, but she's very iconic. The Netflix series tried to actually upgrade her as someone who tries to scheme behind Dracula's in order to try to usurp his power, especially during a power vacuum situation, but here we go.
I am told that you are looking for me, warrior.
Chase Boy is the by Sally Knivet. She's mostly a TV series actress, but she started doing video games recent times, including Emiliana Perfetti in Layton's Mystery Journey.
Yeah.
Would you not prefer to stay with me?
So first we have Daddy Pig, and then we have a little character. Great.
Many pleasures.
An Italian Latin character in that.
Your empty promises mean nothing.
Wait, who voices her? Sorry.
Sally
You and your brothers have
Knivet.
betrayed us all. You are the reason why the world is in darkness.
Layton's Mystery Journey.
You are a fool, Gabriel.
She's the rival character,
You
if you
think
can
I
call
don't
it that,
know
basically.
who you
The closest
are.
thing the game has to a rival character.
My sister in her
They're the Miles
piety wanted
Edgeworth.
nothing but good for the world.
Yeah, you can kind of
But
put
in
it
her
like that, yeah.
arrogance, she begat me.
Although
and
Emiliana is
do
very,
upon
very
herself.
tsundere for cats.
Mankind is ruined, and you must choose sides. Warrior.
I choose life, not death and decay as you have.
Death is merely a question of perspective.
Oh, go be
We
Aristotle
are
somewhere
not
else.
so different.
Oh, you don't pull that here, lady.
Your god cannot save you now. You will be one of us eventually.
Sure, whatever.
It is inevitable.
So we meet again.
No. I will take
Also,
the three
stop with this
powers and
360 shot. It's like,
European
You would
dev
kill
company.
those who founded your own holy order. You are even more cold-blooded than I.
I mean,
the
the ones who
real
founded
okay,
our order are
just
the ones who are
stop
trying to
and
kill
fight
us all.
Please. Yeah, again, Gabriel is done with everyone.
You
Shit.
poor deluded fool. You think you can bring someone back from the dead?
It's interesting that in
Don't
this
you?
case, instead of Dracula
Someone
being
you
in charge of the vampires, it's Carmilla instead now who's in charge of the vampires.
And even the previous owner of the castle, the one in between Carmilla and Frankenstein, apparently was
You
the
are
was
betrayed.
part of the Bernard
There is no
family.
resurrection.
That is one thing to consider.
Only
Even
this
when she
living
turned
death
evil,
you
Carmilla
see
still
before you.
enacted justice on
Join her,
Frankenstein for his crimes, something that her old self wanted to be done.
Okay, time to face Carmilla, and her fight is actually a bit unique. Okay, first of all, she wants a bit of theatricality, but there you go. The three founding members of Revolt of Light were brave warriors who sacrificed their physical bodies in order to become spiritual beings, able to fight God's wars against evil. They performed a mystical ritual to transform themselves into angelic creatures. Their intentions were honorable, but they were deceived and their spirits were fractured. Their good sides were transported into heaven as angelic beings, while their dark side was left behind. The second of the founders, Carmilla, was a highly skilled healer, and her talents knew no equal. Pure of soul and chaste in mind and body, she was renowned for her love for all living creatures. When a spirit left her body on that fateful night, her love for life and her purity were corrupted, giving birth to the vampire Dark Lord.
Obviously not as chaste, given what she's wearing.
And unlike Cornell, she's not that vulnerable to the equivalent of, super effective weapon. Holy water does only so much to her, and that's by using light magic.
Become one with us.
And yes, she has lightning powers.
I told you, no.
Ow.
Yeah, gee,
Well,
just like in
supposed-
the original series, Carmilla doesn't know when to take no for an answer.
Go, my children.
Also, a bit similar to some characters like Shaft, she loves to have that magic bubble of protection, which is the thing that we need to strike.
Yeah, for a second there, I thought you meant Stark, the detective from that TV show.
No. Believe it or not, there's a Castlevania character known as Shaft. And yes, plenty of people have made the joke.
Yes, the shaft.
Kinda, pretty much. It's mildly important among Dracula's minions, particularly of the earthly kind instead of the supernatural. He's actually one of the more important, but yeah, his presence is minimal. Though the effect that he gives to the franchise are important. Remember, he's the one that curses Richter so that the Balmons cannot wield the vampire killer until they're actually cleansed in Portugal ruin.
Wait. Oh, I thought Richter said no. I don't want to do it anymore. After
No.
what I
It
did.
was literally a
I
case of
think
him getting cursed.
I wonder if it was a matter of poor translation because it was tied probably to the original game. Because I distinctly remember something like in the new dub that is explicitly mentioned that it was a curse to put on Richter due to being tainted by the dark side.
It was always a curse, even in the original dub as well, that it was a curse here and there. I think what you may be referring to, Dej, is sort of the reasoning for why Richter apparently brought Dracula back. That being, the whole, I won't be the hero anymore because Dracula's dead thing. I think that has changed between translations and whatnot, especially since, he was cursed anyway.
Can we actually find now?
Can the
Also,
music
Gabriel,
get any more dramatic?
face her that way.
He's also allergic to pies, so that's all Shaft should have done in the first place.
Why do you not look at me? I'm the villain here.
Oh, great. Now she wants to play with the floor. Ow. Also, Robert Carlyle struggles voices. And that's her true form, the one of the actual Lords of Shadow, and she's ugly.
the eye of the beholder, but...
Do you really think that you can defeat me?
Yes.
I already did beat you.
But she's still alive. Kind of.
Anyway,
I still beat you, though.
let's check her profile or not.
Sorry, do you mind stopping for a second? I just need to read my manual.
Just like the lycanthropy Dark Lord, the Vampire Queen was granted an animal-like manifestation of the dark parts of her spirit. It is pitifully ironic that for a healer with such a love for life, she will transform into a blood-sucking monster that consumes the energy of living creatures in order to survive.
Symbolism.
This ungodly bat demon uses the seraph shoulders to fly and can conjure up vampire warriors at will from anywhere in the castle to do her bidding. And now she's a bit more vulnerable to the holy water, thankfully. Yes, Jova?
You gotta love it when bosses technically become vulnerable when they're supposedly at their most powerful. I mean, granted, I get it, but I always find it a funny thing that, when they're at this state where they're not as powerful, they are invulnerable here and there. But, no, like I said, Carmilla's shtick is once again brought back that she doesn't know when to take no for an answer. Depending on the game, she sometimes has the hots for Dracula or is just very loyal to him. Sometimes she's screwed up enough that he's punished her and locked her away here and there. She's trying to get his forgiveness or not.
Show, she was just
like he said, she's more scheming and wants to take over, especially after the power vacuum after season 2.
And yet she constantly fails at it.
Alright.
Because she sucks.
Yeah, she does. Yes, Pedro?
Let me put it this way too. Like the other guys that say yes, because of the cryptocurrency, the actual proper currency is how many puzzles you have solved under your belt, because as we've seen in the games, having a lot of puzzles solved will open doors for you. So
like at least in the Pokemon games, the badges are an actual tangible object that you need as a certification.
And like honestly, how does that put food on the table? Oh, you solved this many puzzles.
Well,
now you can live off of the goodwill from solving.
Jova,
maybe people give you free food.
much like with Pokemon, questioning about the economy of a fictional world like that is probably best left for never.
Okay. Well, to be fair, in the written world, everybody has a job outside of the puzzle.
That is true. But anyway, next phase. Okay, can you just keep a bit of the floor, please?
No, she's trying to kill you.
So I turn her away. That girl that we're currently fighting, that is Camilla.
Yes, her vampiric form.
Again,
she's just changed a little since you last saw her.
Again, Dudes, the spin here is that instead of Dracula being the leader of all vampires, this time it's Carmilla who's the leader of the vampires in this continuity.
And again, props also for that instead of rehashing Walter Bernard from Lament of Innocence, which probably would have been the most logical choice. Sure. But because Walter Bernard is actually mentioned a couple of times, and its role, while being still like the ghost, is also a bit more prominent in the second game, particularly his action towards a person that helped build something in the castle.
Oh yeah, no, that's it. Remember to.
No. You lady, about you being beautiful in that forum. I'm sure there's somebody who's into it, but
considering how simple the two lieutenants were in regards to her, yeah, I can get the idea.
To be fair, those were demons from hell. I get the feeling that their tastes may differ from Gabriel's.
What's the true power of a dark
The true power of a Dark Lord, me being able to lumber and fly over from here to there.
To be fair, she's managing to keep a decent variety of attack anyway, and a couple of most of those are not blockable, like to take advantage of the situation. Alright, time to actually finish her off.
Oh boy, and what other way to do it than with cinematic electricity? I have the power!
Gabriel, you didn't need to watch the globe.
That looks like it hurts.
So unfortunately, just one staking is not enough, so we need to be a bit more stylish.
Going up. You know, the longer you hold on, the more the fall is going to hurt.
It's a good thing we actually have a whip with an actual, grappling hook. Oh, don't worry, it gets better, Shiroi.
Yep. Again, what would Castlevania be without a fly around the castle?
At least it's a good tour or something. There you go. Gabriel uses his own strength to actually, there you go, use himself as an anchor against the fucking tower.
And here we go.
Pull!
Ah, staked on the tallest point of the tallest tower.
Yeah, but we still need to be sure.
Cool.
He's into it. Don't worry.
Nash is dead.
I'll keep those words in mind, Edge, for the future. Also, here's hoping that the sacred ground. Oh, how are you still alive?
She's very stubborn.
It hurts to do that.
Christ's sakes, woman. No one to take the bloody hint!
There we go. The staking is so hard that it produces a shockwave.
Well, lady, you wanted him. You get him and all the penetration
And there you
that
go.
comes
With
it.
this, it's enough to kill Carmilla, but Gabriel had to sacrifice the stake option. There you go, from the cross. Then again, we will not meet any particular vampires after this, so we're good to go.
Wait, so being impaled on a church tower doesn't kill her, but a tinier sword does.
Well, actually, it's more of a stake. Remember, it works classic rules of a vampire. Being stake with a particular type of wood, it does the trick. Anyway, from here we get this new upgrade, the Seraph Shoulders, like we mentioned. Essentially, you have an excuse for a double jump, and this is an actual game that actually justifies your double jump. It's pretty neat.
Oblivion. Sempiternam. Daemonis.
To run a Carlisle's reaction when he's all that in the script.
He's a professional actor, Dweebs. I don't doubt the fact that he cannot pronounce Latin flawlessly.
Don't touch it. Oh.
No, that's what we need. It's another piece of a mask. There you go. Which, if I recall correctly, we don't show. We can actually fuse it with the other in order to start getting it complete. So we only need one more piece and one more Lord of Shadows to defeat. And here it is instead, the object that Carmilla was guarding in his throne room, the Mirror of Fate. This thing does whatever the fuck the plot wants. Sometimes it's a teleport engine, sometimes it tells you what the future is, sometimes it allows you to pass through objects, sometimes it reconstructs objects, so it's a MacGuffin through and through.
I now know that the founders of the Order created the Lords of Shadow. They are one and the same.
We knew that already with
They ascended
Cornell.
into heaven as pure spirits,
Well, he did not
but
have
left
much of an
behind
occasion
their
to talk with Pan in person.
Why are we paying the price for their arrogance?
That is a good
and
question.
Tell me.
Totally.
What am I fighting for?
Only when we look inside ourselves.
Also, you're human. It's up to you to bear the brunt of everyone's bullshit.
Pretty much. Like, okay, for as much as people talk about humans being terrible, we certainly have to put up with a lot of gods' nonsense. And I do mean gods in plural, regardless
Gods
of
exist
the
to be
religion.
dickheads to everyone else.
Sorcery.
And it's great for stories.
The sorcery
How
you
far
see, my
are you
boy,
prepared to
is
go
that of the
to
plot.
uncover the truth?
Remember what Zobek also said, the Gabriel right now is in a state of turmoil, meaning that while he's getting close to the end of his quest, he feels the pain of the things that he has to do in order to get there.
So, guys, anyone who wants it, there's a free castle on the market now.
Wait.
It's
Also, if it's free, how is it? Oh.
But Jova, how am I supposed? But Jova, wouldn't that mean I'd have to clean off the blood from the tower?
That's the price you pay for it being free.
That's what a janitor is for, Dweebs. You need to prioritize who are you hiring for a job.
What janitor is going to want to climb up a tower and risk falling to his death just to clean some blood?
A lot of people in this economy.
It's called Janitors of Manhattan.
Vanya, with
Yeah,
this,
true.
the vampire section is concluded, which means we have only one more Lord of Shadows remaining, the one of the Necromancer. But we'll need to properly get to this territory. So next part will be another kind of fillering part, like where Gabriel traverses through a particular area in order to get to the territories of the Necromancer. Specifically, we will meet a particular character. Some say she kidnaps children in the middle of the night. Some say she lives in a house that has chicken legs. Regardless, she's revered as a powerful witch. So tune in next time, where Gabriel meets, of all people, Baba Yaga. See you for that.
See you then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.